Welcome to today's eConsent 2.0 session, where we are going to test the eConsent project and survey that were set up during the previous two sessions. We'll start today by looking at the SOP for testing a project. One thing here is when we do testing, a lot of times when you test initially, if you're just by yourself, you play the role of study coordinator who's obtaining consent and um, and research participant. Okay, so you're kind of going back and forth between those two things, and you really just want to make sure uh, some key features work. Specifically, receiving this fully executed consent form as the participant, because if that works, there's a good chance that everything else above it works. Okay, so I'm going to move this off to the side so that I can use it as we're going through here. Okay, so when we're testing, just go to the top of the page, and how we're going to start is just by adding a record. So click Add Edit Records. You can add a new record. If you've disabled automatic record numbering, you would have to enter a number there, but I haven't disabled that. So mine's just participant one. And so in the actual workflow, kind of the theoretical workflow that I was considering when, initially making these four instruments, the idea would be that I would either call the participant because I've got their name from Volunteers for Health or from a clinic patient list, or I'm meeting them in the clinic, and I'm recruiting patients right from the clinic. But no matter what, I'm going to have an opportunity to get some general information about them first. So in here, just click participant information, and you can just enter some fake information here. I like to just use my old friend research participant, give them a birth date that makes them an adult. Let's just say 1999. There. Send survey by email. When you're testing, you can use easy pens. Don't use easy pens for the actual participant, but go ahead and, I'm going to use 1, 2, 3, 4. That shouldn't be a participant's pen, but it could be. Now later we could come back and we could delete out some of this red italicized text, but we're just going to move forward with it for right now. Let's make sure we say yes to this one where we would like to send a copy of the form emailed. And then here, put your email for both. Okay, so I am both the participant and I am the person obtaining consent. That's really just the most straightforward way to do this the first time. If you're sitting right with somebody who's on your study team, that might, you might be fine to just send it back and forth to each other. But if you're working on this by yourself, as often happens in REDCap, it may just be easiest to be both of these roles. So I'm going to say complete. And I'm going to do save and exit. So let's go out of here. Now, I picked this delivery method specifically just as an easy way to test this. I understand there might be other ways where, maybe there's an automated survey invitation that after you fill out the, this form, it maybe automatically triggers delivery of this. But for this testing, I'm just going to use the participant list. So once I have a record created and some data saved, I can go to Survey Distribution Tools. And I should come directly to the participant list because I don't have a public survey link for this project. And then I can just compose the survey invitation. And since I only have one person here in my project so far, I don't have to change any of these check marks over here. I'm only going to send it to myself. Here I'm going to say send immediately. I don't put reminders on here by default because Usually my anticipation is that the person is looking for this. Maybe you have a phone call scheduled with them while they're doing this, or a Zoom call scheduled while you're doing this. So it's if you need these, you can add them, but in general, I don't include the reminders for this. Um, then this this method does not have pre-populated text. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to enter, whatever name I want this to appear from. Maybe I'll say lab name. And I'm going to do no reply at wusel.edu. This can be one of your emails or team member, anything you want. But after that, I'm just going to copy and paste. I'm going to copy and paste the subject line. I'm just here in my area. You can type this if you're not close to this to be able to just copy and paste it. And then sometimes copying and pasting works a little funny in this particular cell. So if depending on how it works, you may have to copy it or just type it. So here's the body, and you don't need to copy and paste anything below here because this is already in there. But these two lines are a little bit different. But just to show you what happens, this will probably work because I'm expecting it not to work. But if I paste this in here, yeah, actually it worked pretty fine. Sometimes it right justifies it, or I have to do some formatting change to that, but I'll just paste that in there. Make it look as much like that as possible. That survey link, this is all standard text, but this up here is text that the IRB reviewed. So if you're going to use something different, just make sure to have your email communication language reviewed by the IRB. And I'm going to go ahead and send this. I did see a question pop up, so that's a good time to save to check over here. Okay, so I had a question about the manually upload the consent to email it out workaround. Do we just keep that in the study until it's phased out and then a newer template moving forward? So no, so the save and workaround, so the save and so that one, the manually download and upload, that originally was overtaken by the multi-signature consent one, and then now it's being overtaken by the PDF snapshot. If I'm remembering, though, I think you might have had a study where you wanted two separate processes, two separate fully executed consents, in which case the multi-signature consent could not do that, but the new PDF snapshot can. And so actually, when we get to the final step of this, when we talk about how to move the logic from the old method to the new method, that is a way that you can just build that e-consent snapshot, and that should work for the automatic uploading of it. But be sure submit a ticket after this if you still have questions on it. Can you save?
Chris.
Yep.
Yeah, this is Maggie. Thank you. We're still having to manually upload those because we have the two different study sites. And so I'll listen for the end, but that'll be great if there's a way to fix that because that'll really help with our multi-site studies.
Yep. There's now, the multi-signature external module only allowed that to happen one time per study or one time per project. But these e-consent triggers or the PDF triggers, you can really build as many of those as you want. So that will be how to set that up. So yeah, definitely let's touch base if we need to after. And then another, can you save a survey template for the text in REDCap? Yeah, so you can do something similar to that. Okay, so you can't save an instrument as a template like I did this project. But what you can do once you get, like, if this is approved and you just want to keep this, or you need to share it, maybe you've got a multi-site study where each instance is using their own instance of REDCap or something. um, you can actually download this zip file, and then you just keep that stored somewhere, because you don't need to open this zip file. You just keep it in this format. Um, I opened it, but that might actually have caused problems. You actually don't want to open it because you can then just take this zip file and upload it um, to another project. Okay, and that's across instances. So I could send this zip file to someone at Vanderbilt University or University of Washington, anywhere, and they could pop that right into their instance, um, doing that. So just choose action, download instrument for zip. That's how you can essentially store a template of your own specific instrument and share it with others or move it to other projects. Good questions. Thank you. Uh, I can address this now, Missy. So talking about an e-consent for multi-site study where both sites are using WashU REDCap, um, that's basically you'll have to, that's in some ways easier. You'll have to get each person who's going to work from those other sites a guest WUSTL key. Once they have a guest WUSTL key, they can basically use WashU REDCap almost like a WashU person. So then you can just add them to your project just as you would a WashU person. And then if you need to, there's data access groups. So you can say, all people from WashU can only say WashU data. People from, University A can only see data from University A, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's really mainly making sure you get all the people who are going to be working on the project from other universities a guest WUSTL key. But uh, their consents will be slightly different than ours. Okay, that gets into the same thing as before, where you can set up multiple triggers and you could have multiple consents for multiple sites. So that, yeah, let's discuss that after, because that gets into like the multi-signature stuff, or multi-triggers, I should say. That's not a multi-signature, it's a multi-consent form. Okay. Yep. And in that group that I put on the slides earlier, if we had a weekly working session, that would be a good time to work on the differences, those types of studies. Okay. We are ready to test. I believe what I did was I had just delivered my invitation to myself as a study team, or as a participant. Okay, so if I open that email, and I like to actually deliver the emails rather than just look inside the application at the survey invitation log, because I want to make sure it looks the way I want it when a participant sees it. Number one, I want this to look correct. I don't want this to be something that's going to make them, it's something they recognize, not something that they're going to ignore. However you choose, whether that's a person's name or a lab name or whatever. Now I'm going to go ahead and open this as though I am the participant. And we did a very easy 1, 2, 3, 4 here, but I'm going to click show value here, and let's just see what happens when I don't get this right. So we didn't go over the survey login because it's basically set up. Nothing needs to change unless you go in and change the email and phone in this message. But we see that we're getting an error message if we put this in there wrong. And it says, After 5 logged in failed logins, you'll have to wait 15 minutes. But let's go ahead and enter the real one now, 1234, and log in. Okay, so this is what the person will see if they're on, uh, the same kind of computer as me. Sometimes different devices, things like that, might show this at different size when you first open it, which is one of the reasons why we have to type in all of this into a survey, because this can be many different formats on many different devices. Um, so if I'm a participant, I have an opportunity to say, oh yes, this is the type that I know and I am used to. I'm going to read through it, and then I'll go through and see it as the survey. Okay, pretty straightforward there. That looks good as long as it's in a format that looks pretty close to my project. And now we'll just go ahead and test this. Now you'll want to do a test where you do one yes and one no and make sure it's going on the correct lines, because right now when I say yes, I can only see one of them, but it should just be the yes, initials yes. And so I'm going to put the initials for research participant in here, and I'm going to do the same again on this one. Next page, I get my what if I have questions. And now here I'm to my signature. Okay, as you can see, it's automatically giving them this time. No more checkbox, add signature. I'll just do a capital R, maybe a little line, P, a line. Here's my signature. This is a quick signature. That actually probably looks better than when I try to actually write my name out or write anything, write a full word in there. But anyway, make sure they've signed it, and then participant. And then they go next page. Now this is one that's gotten people a few times lately that caused an error, and it's a reversible error, which is good. But if the participant gets to this page and then they don't do the final step of certifying, and then you go in and sign, the upload's not going to work correctly. So I'll tell you what to look for when you go to sign to make sure that doesn't happen. But if you're on the phone, or Zoom with this with the person here, you can have them make sure they go down and make sure there's a signature there. And at this point, it should only be theirs. Definitely should only be theirs. And I'm going to say I certify and I submit. At this point, we can close the survey. Keep this open. Now you should have received, or should receive very shortly, an alert that tells you you need to go in and sign a consent. Okay, here's what mine looks like. This is that alert and notification that we brought up. And this is going to study team members who obtain consent. And it's got a link directly to this as a form. So I'm going to click this link. And here we are. I'm right here in record number 1's survey that they just completed at 12:54 p.m. Great. Looking good so far. And what I want to do here is I want to scroll, and I really want to make sure I see this. Okay. Do not sign. Do not scroll down and sign if you do not see their responses. Okay. There's a message down there that'll tell you what to do. You want to make sure you can see it, see the responses, see the signatures, or signature and the name and the date, and then come down here and see yours. Now, initially, you're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to sign. We'll have to go up and say edit response. But before we do that, let me just point your attention here to this big before study team member signs message. And it says, ensure you can see the participants' responses in the form. If you cannot, do not save the form. Okay, so if you don't see their responses in here, most likely you'll see all the like save and exit things down here. And if you don't see that, you need to leave the page. You need to either refresh this or you need to leave the page. If you sign when you can't see this, um, you you run the risk of actually deleting out everything that they entered. It's just a weird thing that wouldn't have anticipated, and it happened a few times, and there's really no answer other than to re-sign a consent form because it literally just deletes out their responses. Um, so that's a good warning here. Now, as long as I can see this, and then the other thing I want to check for is that says complete. This drop down just says complete. If it just says incomplete, that means they got to that last page and they did not click certify. And it means if you click it, if you save, it's going to certify it by you instead of the participant. And that causes an issue with the file upload. Okay, so make sure you can see responses and you see a complete, and that's the only thing on the drop down. Now I'm going to go up. I'm going to click edit response. Now, as I mentioned, even though I'm editing these responses, I still can't change anything the participant put in here. And that's important because, as I mentioned, if I'm scrolling down with my down button and my pen or my mouse accidentally kind of hovers over this, there's a chance that I could actually flip this from yes to no just by pushing down with my uh, navigating down. So you want to make sure these are read only and they cannot be accessed unless you are taking it as a survey. In the history, you should never see anything but survey respondent on these. Okay, there shouldn't be a reason for a study team member to come in and fill these out. So you should never see that Chris Sorensen or Sorensen C at woostel.edu entered data into these fields. Okay, same thing here. I can't do anything to these, but I can sign here, and I'm just going to say S study team. Okay, obviously you'd put your real name, but for now we are study team. We've got research participant signing consent for study team. All right, and it'll say now, and then as I'm prompted to here, save and exit form. And I did see a question pop up. Can participants' ID be added into the alert email subject? I'm going to say no. If there is anyone from compliance that, or either HRQA, IRB, let me know. But to me, you're trying to keep with this consent form and these communications on consent form. We're trying to keep the record ID away from the consent form anytime we're delivering anything related to the consent. I would go as far to say that you'd probably never want to include a participant's ID in an alert email that's going to that participant. I wouldn't know for sure, but I would say definitely with e-consent communications, I would not put that participant ID in there. Edit response button, good question. Go back into here and right up here at the top. Sorry. And if you don't see it, if you don't see this is for anybody. If you didn't see this edit response at the top, go to user rights, click on your own username, edit privileges, and make sure this box is checked. Oh, gotcha. Okay, the whole form was set to read only yet. Okay. Okay. So the last step I finished, we had just done I had just done the save and exit form, which I can't, which I guess I would do edit response, save and exit form. After you do save and exit form, maybe I'll just do it again just to make sure. It's not going to change anything as long as I don't go in and manually change anything, but I'll just do this just to make sure we're all on the same page here. Once you click save and exit form, you should come here to the record homepage. And you get a big clue if things are going correctly here because you should see red right here. And what that is indicating is even though we've not opened this instrument for this record, there's data in there. What does that mean? That means this file, a PDF of this instrument, was uploaded here after I signed. So that's good. Let's check that. And these steps are all in there to check these. So all in the SOPs. Come in and check. Whoa, no. Well, that's bad. Let's see. Okay. I was going to say I had not seen that one before, but it looked like it was just a little browser glitch that a little the refresh helped. Good deal. If the problem isn't fixed by unplugging and plugging it back in or clicking refresh, I'm in trouble. But anyway, it's here now. So what we want to look for on this, now you should see both. You should see both signatures. You should see your study team signature as well as your research participant, because this is the one that will be delivered to the person. And we did do some steps earlier to make sure we remove that there's no participant ID on here. It does say version number, but we don't want that ID on here. So we have a fully executed consent. That's great. It's in this form. And we can check that as the study team member. And at this point, it actually should have already triggered the delivery of the consent to the participant. So let's check that. As the study team member, we can check that here in the survey distribution tools. Survey invitation log. View past invitations. And there we go. I've got two invitations in here, one when I sent them the original consent, and then one when they got the fully executed consent. And you can even pop this open and see kind of what it looks like when they got it. But since we're testing here, we can actually go to our email and see what the actual email looks like. And here it is. So one thing I noticed in my testing, I have the research coordinator name on one email and a lab name on another. You would probably want to make that consistent across your project, that they're always seeing the same name. But they can now click this and open this. Usually they'd have to use their login, their PIN, but you can see right here this survey login session is still active. Basically, REDCap, if a single person is logged into a computer or a device and they enter their PIN for a project, they will not have to use that PIN again for 30 minutes. If I came back in 25 minutes and redid this, I would have to use my PIN to open this. So this is a PIN protected link, even though I didn't have to enter my PIN. Let me just show you one more time, just to make sure we get that. I can actually open it from in here. But just watch here. It says survey login session is still active. That is a standard REDCap feature that we cannot change unless we convince the developers of REDCap to change it. But this is what the user sees, so they'll be able to see their full consent. They got all the content there. They can see their yes, no's, and they can see their signature, and they can see your signature. If they'd like, they can download it, but they don't have to, because they could actually click submit this. They could click submit and this is closed. But as long as they keep this email in their inbox, as long as they have this link, it's like their own personal web page to come in here and just view their e-consent anytime they want. And again, if they came back later today or tomorrow, they'd have to enter their PIN to make sure they could access this.